Hey 918ers, Geek Boy here, and as you can see behind me, the Christmas season has officially breached the security of the ultra-secret secure fan cave, and as a result, the tchotchke-filled V'ger tree has begun its yearly rotation, signaling to all of us at Fanboys 918 that it's time for us to slow down a bit and celebrate the festivities of the season with our family and friends. However, while we are cutting back on our live events until after the new year, we are not, I repeat, not neglecting you, our 450 awesome followers. Quite the opposite, in fact, because this is December of 2019, the year and month that will be marked, either for good or ill, as the point in time when Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, was unleashed upon us all. And we at Fanboys 918 felt what better way to celebrate the impending end of the Skywalker saga than by taking a look back at the movies that led us to this point. Over the coming weeks, we will be doing discussions of all previous 8 chapters in the Skywalker saga, starting this week with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But before we dive into that, I want to thank, again, all 450 of our fans for their support. You are the 918 community, and we are so honored for all of you that choose to spend your precious time reading our articles, engaging in discussions, checking us out at conventions, or following us on social media. And it's that last point I want to speak to just for a second. We try to spend our days scouring the vastness of the interwebs so that you don't have to. So if you like what we do, whether it's the shared content from other sites, whether it's these videos or our live chats, please leave a like on them, reshare them when you can, and reshare our page if you're so inclined. Also, I want to remind everyone that we're now on Twitch as well as YouTube. Neither of these channels are as developed as our Facebook page, but the Facebook page is where we got our start, so it's always going to, be our top tier. But I do want to ask that everyone who likes us, please like and subscribe to our YouTube page and mash that bell when you do so that you'll get notifications when we release new content. Now, I am not a big fan of shilling like this, but YouTube has recently made some changes to their terms and conditions that don't seem to be as friendly to independent creators like us as they are big corporations. We understand bigger changes are coming to YouTube in 2020, so we just want to make sure that you can still find us there when you look for us. Now, with all that nonsense out of the way, I ask that you would holster your blasters, deactivate your lightsabers, crack open the blue milk-infused eggnog, and enjoy our retro discussion of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace on this episode of the Talking Geek, which starts right now. It's Geek Boy. Welcome back to this special episode of the Talking Geek. I got a full table tonight. I am joined with the Wonder Midget and the Queen of the Geeks, as well as Madam Brunch and Bullets. And in this episode of the Talking Geek, we are going to be doing our review of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. As everyone knows, we're just a few weeks out from the release of the last Star Wars episode of the Skywalker saga, The Rise of Skywalker. And while there's been a lot of things going around the news about it, about whether it's going to be good or it's going to be bad, whether it's been a tumultuous production, we're doing a complete retrospective on all the Star Wars movies in general, and we're doing the prequel trilogy tonight, and that's our concern. So I'm just going to open up, I'm going to make this statement, throw it out to everybody else in the group. Two of the biggest cinematic disappointments in my life have involved the Star Wars saga. One of them we will not speak of because I don't want to get you fired up.
It's too early in the day.
It's too early in the day. The other one involves episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I was very disappointed with The Phantom Menace. On the other hand, as much as that movie was hyped and promoted, I don't know that it could have lived up to anyone's expectations. Well, Endgame did, though. You know, but anyway, so I'm going to throw it out to the table. Thoughts? We'll just start with The Phantom Menace. Thoughts?
I think visually, all of these movies were a much better, just because technology had advanced and the ability to make better movies with the special effects and everything. That aspect of it I really enjoyed. It brought Star Wars into today visually. But, I mean, you get Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, Jar Jar was... Yeah.
No, he's just not good. Just not good for me.
I mean, he is an aquatic race, so we sort of jumped the shark.
Whoa, that's bad. That's bad.
Sorry, when did you get to that?
That's bad. Woo, boys, we didn't even start that, but truer words were never spoken.
It is after 8 p.m. It's not that early.
That's true. Is this going to become a Geeks on the Rocks episode? I'm not sure about that. So
we'll see how these drinks flow.
Yeah. We'll see. Madam, you were much younger than any of us in the group.
I was a child.
I was just a child. She was just a child.
I was, 11, 12 when this movie came out?
No, you were 9.
Oh.
Because your mom and I saw it when we were dating. You were not when we were dating.
So I was 9, so I wasn't. Yeah.
Man, that was a long time ago.
The Phantom Menace celebrates its 20th anniversary this year.
Cheers to 20.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers to 20.
Almost there, bud.
Yeah.
But if 99, then I would have been 8.
Okay.
It was just a good movie because I had seen the other Star Wars because we had them on the VHS, and it's one of the things that my papa would watch. So
very vintage.
Very vintage, yes.
That's what the V stands for, right?
Vintage. Vintage home shit.
I'll drink to that.
And then, so I would watch them on there, and it was just completely different. And it was nice because one of the characters was a child.
True.
Who was the same age that I was. And he got to fly a spaceship and do all of that. He was in a race. And so it was fun to watch. Now, if you ask my sisters, Jar Jar is one of the better characters that they enjoy. Because I said Jar Jar is very annoying, and both went.
Here's my thing about the Phantom Menace. It is the hardest of the. Whenever we do a marathon, because we always do a marathon whenever a new Star Wars movie is coming out, whether it's like Rogue One. I mean, forget like the episodes. I mean, even if it's just Rogue One, or Solo.
I like
it. Is the
hardest. You mean the
Lando movie?
Yeah, it is the hardest movie for me to get through. It didn't used to be. I mean, the pod race is amazing.
Still, to this day, it's like one
it
of
is
the
amazing.
best scenes,
and I'm sorry, the last 20 minutes of that movie is George Lucas at his George freaking Lucas best. I mean, you've got the space battle raging in the stars.
Yeah.
You've got the Queen and the troops trying to retake the palace, and you've got the ultimate lightsaber duel going on between Obi-Wan. I don't know if there's ever been a lightsaber duel better than that. Even the Anakin Obi-Wan duel at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I don't think was as good as the fight between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon.
I really have to agree with that. And just being a Ray Park fan myself, having interviewed him myself,
the man's a monkey.
the man is part monkey.
For me, I've always loved Darth Vader. My black little heart just loves him.
Yeah, and that's the part of Darth Maul that we really fell in love with. We love to hate him. The only difference is we became sympathetic to Darth Vader. Maul, we never did.
Yes, I think that's what I do like about the prequels is that it tells the story of how Anakin becomes Darth Vader, and I
need that.
feel for him. Like, I can understand why he would turn to the dark side. He goes to the dark side from fear and love, and he just let that consume him.
You know, the other thing is, though, I've always felt like the biggest disservice the prequels did, not just the Phantom Menace, every part in the prequel series is expertly cast except the role of Anakin Skywalker.
I don't have a problem with him, but again, he's not Jar Jar. God, I couldn't get any stupider listening to Jar Jar.
You know, okay,
I really agree.
So here's the thing.
He's just a child.
So as you know, which probably annoys that, I'm sure this trait probably annoys you to no end. The IT Geek and I are all about the fan edits and the fan stuff.
I'm all about fan edits.
So
yes.
many years ago, there was a fan edit that Lucasfilm has yanked down. Called I believe it was called Balance of the Force, and they re-edited the Phantom Menace. They grabbed a screen capture or just a brief scene and they slowed it down when Anakin's in front of the Jedi Council, and you know, like when they're talking to Anakin, they're like, well, you know, you miss your mother and all, but it was just one brief scene of little Jake Lord with kind of a scowl on his face. And they kept that, like every time they would cut back to him, they would go to that like he held the Jedi Council in just complete disdain that they did not see his talent.
And maybe he was a great actor and it was just bad editing.
Well, and I think George Lucas, to his, no, I'm not here. You know, there's become a cottage industry of people.
You don't
bagging.
want to second guess Lucas? Come on.
There's become a cottage industry of people bagging on George Lucas. Okay, and I'm not going to do that.
As George Lucas laughs from all of his money,
from his $4.2 billion he got from Disney.
As George Lucas laughs all the way to the bank.
Right.
But I do think he underestimated the expectations of the more mature fan base. I think he thought that Star Wars was a movie for kids. And granted, I had my Star Wars experience at 7, 10, and 13. Mm-hmm. Okay? Is it right for me to expect the same out of a movie as an adult that I had then? I don't know.
I would say yes, and I think that was one thing I don't think he left it out. I think he underestimated the fact that the kids grew up.
Well, and I think the most frustrating thing for me, and I'm going to let you guys chime in, is when I see inklings of what the Phantom Menace could be, like in those edits, or when you see the pod race, or when you see like the duel at the end. It's like, I want more of this, or even the little duel that Qui-Gon has in the desert. I mean, I love the character of Qui-Gon. I thought he was great. I thought Liam Neeson did a fantastic job. I think that Ewan McGregor was a great choice to play a young Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Could have done that. I mean, those are my thoughts. I've talked a lot. You guys, I'll start here with Madam Brunch.
Well, I mean, Ewan McGregor has now carried on to where they recast Jake and put Hayden Christensen in. And so, I mean, and Hayden Christensen is a great actor, and I thought he did really well. Right. But he even had his own failings in the prequels as well, like his acting. I mean, there's one scene where he's crying, like sobbing about the Sand People, and that's become a meme. So
that's when you kind of question.
Like, so that is that bad acting, or is that just because somebody found it funny? So with Jake being a kid, you have to remember he was a child.
10.
He was 10, and you can only coach a child so much to for what they can understand, and so but also you have to think about, editing goes into that too. True. They probably could have over-edited him, and they probably did.
Well, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to hand it off to the Queen. it is legendary. I read a great book this past summer called George Lucas Alive, which was a biography of George Lucas, and you did buy that book for me.
You're such a
and
good kid.
one of the things that runs through it is George Lucas, and I'm not, again, this is not that bagging on Lucas thing. Harrison Ford has said this. Mark Hamill said George Lucas is not an actor's director. George Lucas wants to get an actor who doesn't need a lot of hand-holding, thank you, and say, this is what I wrote, do this, because he's worried about, okay, I've got to composite this in, the blue screen's going to go here, I've got the map, he's worried about all that other stuff,
It's almost like he needs another director.
Right.
Like,
and
or
so,
the assistant director needs
on the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe had he been a little more people-friendly, maybe we could have got some better performances. What do you think, Queen?
I mean, you're right that the casting of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan and Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, they were two of my favorites.
They're seasoned actors too.
Yes,
so
exactly.
they are.
And that's the point I was going.
So look at the actors that we feel like they did a great job representing these characters.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need the coaching and the direction, and so maybe that's where we're lacking in some of it. I still feel like, so in '99 I would have been in college, so I probably didn't see this on opening weekend.
My gray is aching.
I don't think my nerd was fully revealed at this point.
No, you were still a closet nerd at that point. I got to give you that.
Because I turned 21 in December of '99, so
and that's when it would have come out.
I was at the bar.
Yeah, but you grew up on the original trilogy, though, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this was, I watched it over and over with my mom, the original trilogy. So, and I know with Buddy and I and the boys, we've watched these over and over. And like you said, we watch them every time a Star Wars movie comes out. And the Phantom Menace is always the hardest one to get through.
I think I've avoided it, if I'm going to be honest.
It sets up those relationships that you see between, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan and Anakin, and I think they're important. It tells an important story. It's just sometimes painful to get through.
I like what you said, that the seasoned actors are the ones who seem to embody that, or the one actor that everybody acknowledges is great is just playing himself, and that's Sam Jackson.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
As Mace Windu. It's like I don't know if he's acted a day in his life. It's like
I'm just this cool.
I want everyone to think about this, and again, this is all coulda, woulda, shoulda. How do we think the Phantom Menace would have played had the episode opened? Because it opens with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan going to try to resolve the trade dispute, and they get ambushed, they end up on Naboo. What if it opens with the ship landing and Obi-Wan and his already young apprentice, 14-year-old Anakin, get off the ship? They meet Qui-Gon there. The story unfolds. Anakin's already his apprentice, so we could have cast Hayden Christensen there. Okay, he had already been in the role. And then he meets the Queen, and he falls in love with her. He becomes attracted to her, and then the thing plays out. We don't recap,
because she would have been a senator again at that point.
When we head off to Tatooine, instead of meeting Anakin, there's a discussion in the back of the ship. Anakin, we're going to Tatooine? Really? That's what you picked? Hey, the Hutts aren't looking for her there. And it's like, we know why you're going to Tatooine, Anakin. You want to see your mother. Just bring that plot line out there, and then the whole instead of recasting with that, Hayden grows into the role like we've seen other actors grow in a role. I think it would have saved story time for one, and I think it would have meant a lot more.
With Annie's midichlorian count,
right?
He being as high as it was, because he should have been found way before 9.
Right, but the Republic didn't really have a presence on Tatooine. They established that.
Right, but they. So
you're telling me there's no Jedi Knight feeling that.
Right.
Feeling that.
Yoda didn't know.
No. Right. So you're going to lead, because that's why his attachment to his mother was so strong, is because he had been there for so long.
Explaining why they had the most powerful Sith Lord on the freaking planet living 3 doors down from him.
That's true statements.
Well, I'm not here to poke holes in that. What I do want to ask, though, my 2 younger members of the table, One of the things I'm most troubled by in our most recent flock of movies is they seem to want to go back and explain things. Like, I know you guys aren't big Alien fans, but in Alien Covenant, they explained that we created the alien accidentally. Okay? And then we had some other things. So I guess my thing is, a lot of people, and I really didn't have a problem, but a lot of people were livid about the whole midi-chlorian thing, that essentially the Force is a blood disease. You know, how did you guys feel about it? I didn't really have a problem with it, but that seems to be the thing of a younger generation of fans wanting to know why or wanting to explain everything. It didn't really make that much of a difference to me, but I know a lot of people were furious about it. How did you guys feel about that?
I'm not one that's ever, so a lot of times I feel like in the group, I'm the one that I don't have, like, all of the background. I'm not like beholden to all of these stories and how things should be. I'm just going into the movie and, was it good or not? Did I like this particular story?
So you don't have any preconceptions of canon, and that helps.
So
No. And I think it makes it easier to like some of these because I don't get hung up on, okay, so
The
you tell me
uniforms.
that...
We're not, this is not a Star Trek podcast. Don't bring up the uniforms.
But I
Who invited her?
Uniforms? What the heck?
But I think it goes to, you know, when you talk about alternate options, I think that, like Jess is saying, though, he formed an attachment to his mom because he was with her for so long.
Right.
I think if you fast forward and you make that change to where he first meets Padme when he's 14, he would have already been in training and learning to control his emotions.
Right.
I don't think he would have formed an attachment to her like he did.
Oh, to Padme.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. He probably wouldn't
So
have.
I don't think he would have gone to the dark side if he had already started Jedi training prior to meeting her.
Right, because Padme was the one that went with him back to Tatooine
Later on
when he found to find his mother, only to be
Yeah.
found out that she had been killed by sand people. And
Yeah.
then he goes on this murderous rampage and murders
Yeah,
an
so-
entire
I think
race.
that I buy the story of, I get it. There are things that could have been done better, but I think that if you changed when he met her, he's still he's not even a Padawan yet when he meets her.
Yeah.
And so
He
he's
has
leaving his
no
mother. He's forming an attachment to her before he goes into any training.
And he's
Yeah.
so young that losing that attachment to his mother, and then the next strong female that is in his life is Padme. So when he leaves with Qui-Gon, I agree. He attaches himself to her in some form because he was cold in space, and you miss your mother. She even pointed that out. But then, like you said, when he gets older and they go back to where he goes back, she follows him and goes with him. And then after he goes on his murderous spree, he then further attaches himself to her because he's lost his mother and she's there.
That's who
So-
he has left.
Well, and then you also have to think, well,
It's very
and
Freudian.
this is giving Yoda a lot of credit as well. But Yoda is one of the Jedi that can see into the future, and he can see what happens.
He
So-
even says
He's
that
like, no, we're not
it's
training this
clouded.
kid.
But he
Right.
says he's even clouded. The future is
It's
cloudy.
cloudy. So it could have changed, because, I mean, but future always can change. That's something you can always change the path you're on. You don't have to walk step for step from what's going to be. You have free will to change.
Well, I think we can all agree before we leave Phantom Menace that Pod Race was great. The duel was great. You know, that
Yes.
although
I liked seeing Naboo. I don't care what you people say.
Oh no, Naboo's
I
fantastic.
enjoyed seeing the movie.
I do have to say this. Everyone who's followed our page knows that we were tabletop gamers. Know that that we do that kind of stuff. Yes,
That's not secret.
No, it's not. But I do have to say this: watching the Phantom Menace from the point of view as a game master, that ending duel.
Would you have run it
What
like
the
that, John?
I do have to say that there were several times I would have been called bullshit on, like when the force field walls when they shut the whole table. Why are these here? What purpose do they serve? Because I'm sitting there as a GM thinking, what could I say? I got nothing. I've got nothing. Why these force field walls? Yeah. So
You fix this.
you're cheating. You're cheating.
Cheating.
Roll again out here where everybody
So-
can see
You're
you.
gonna need to look behind that board.
Yeah.
Everybody can see you.